Before there was a Qin Shi Huang, before the Great Wall, before the unification of scripts and currencies, there was one man who took a broken, mocked, semi-barbarian kingdom on China's western frontier and forged it into the deadliest political and military machine the ancient world had ever seen. That man was Shang. And the system he built didn't just make Qin strong, it defined Chinese governance for the next 2,000 years. Today, we're not talking about myths or legends. We're diving into strict, peer-reviewed historical fact, the life, the laws, the bloodshed, and the immortal legacy of Shang Yang's reforms, the single most critical turning point in the rise of the Qin dynasty. Let's start where the story begins, 4th century BCE Qin. Imagine a state so far west, so culturally removed from the Central Plains, that the other 6 major warring states dismissed it as uncivilized, as barbarians who didn't deserve a seat at the diplomatic table. Its economy was stagnant. Its military was weak. Power rested entirely in the hands of inbred aristocratic clans, who inherited land titles and wealth simply by being born. No talent, no service, no loyalty required. The ruler at the time, Duke Xiao of Qin, was a young ambitious man humiliated by this contempt. He famously declared, to be despised by the other feudal lords is the greatest shame. In 361 BCE, he issued a call that would shake China to its core, a universal decree, promising high office land and power to any man from any state who could make Qin rich and strong. Into this chaos stepped a minor noble from the state of Weigong Sun Yang, later known as Shang Yang. He was a student of legalism, a harsh, pragmatic philosophy that rejected Confucian virtue and tradition in favor of strict universal law, state power, and total social control. He carried with him the Book of Law, written by the earlier reformer, Li Kui, and a single, unshakable vision, rebuild the state from the ground up, by destroying the old aristocracy and tying every person's fate directly to the success of the Qin state. But reform doesn't happen without a fight. Before any law was written, Shang Yang faced a showdown with Qin's old elite. Their leaders, Gan Long and Du Ji, argued that reform was dangerous, that following ancient ways never leads to error, adhering to old rituals never leads to chaos. Shang Yang destroyed them in one of history's greatest debates on state power. He said, "Governance does not follow one path. To benefit the state, we do not imitate antiquity." He proved that dynasties rose, not by clinging to the past, but by adapting to power. Duke Xiao sided with Shang Yang, and in 356 BCE, the first wave of reforms began. But Shang Yang knew something critical. People would not trust a state that broke its own promises. So he did something that became legend. He placed a wooden pole at the south gate of Qin's capital, and announced that any man who carried it to the north gate would receive 50 taels of gold. The crowd laughed. No one believed the state would pay such a sum for such a simple task. Finally, one man stepped forward, lifted the pole, and walked to the north gate. Shang Yang paid him immediately in full. This act, setting up a wooden pole to build trust, was a pre-stunt. It was a psychological declaration. From this day forward, the law of Qin is absolute, and the state keeps its word. The first reforms targeted the 2 greatest weaknesses of old Qin, social disorder and military failure. First, Shang Yang imposed the Shi Wu system, a strict household registration that grouped families into units of 5 and 10. Every family was responsible for the crimes of the others. If one person broke the law and the group did not report it, everyone was punished, often by death. Those who reported crimes were rewarded as if they had killed an enemy soldier in battle. This created a society of mutual surveillance, eliminating banditry, secret plots, and private feuds. Next, he launched the policy that would turn Qin's army into an unstoppable force, the 20 ranks of merit. This law abolished hereditary privilege forever. No longer could a nobleman claim title or land just because his father had it. Instead, every single man, commoner, slave or noble, could earn rank, landhouses and servants only through military achievement. The rule was brutally simple: cut off one enemy head in battle, earn 1 rank. The more heads you brought back, the higher you rose. This didn't just make soldiers brave, it turned every Qin warrior into a man fighting for his own family's future. The old aristocracy hated it. Their power was melting away. But the people of Qin embraced it. For the first time in history, birth did not trap you in poverty. On the battlefield, a peasant could become a lord. Alongside military reform, Shang Yang rewrote Qin's economic future with a policy of emphasizing agriculture and suppressing commerce. In war, food is victory. Shang Yang knew that merchants moved wealth without producing it, while farmers grew the grain that fed armies and filled state treasuries. He rewarded farming families with tax breaks and exemptions from labor service. He punished traders with heavy taxes and forced labor. He even banned families from living together if they had more than one adult son. Every man had to start his own farm, doubling the number of agricultural households and increasing state revenue. These laws turned Qin into a farming powerhouse. Granaries overflowed the state, had the food to sustain long-distance campaigns, something no other warring state could match. By 350 BCE, the first reforms had worked. Qin was richer, safer, and more militarily capable than ever before. Duke Xiao moved the capital to Xianyang, a more central forward-looking city, and Shang Yang launched a second, even more radical wave of reforms that struck at the very heart of feudal power. He abolished the well-field system, the ancient Zhou-era land system that kept peasants tied to aristocratic estates. He opened the 1,000-acre paths, dividing land into private plots, recognizing private ownership and allowing free trade. This destroyed the economic base of the old nobility. Peasants now owned their land and paid taxes directly to the state, not to a local lord. Central power skyrocketed. Next, he imposed the county system across all Qin territory, 31 counties, later expanded to 41, with officials appointed and dismissed directly by the central government. No more local lords ruling their own private kingdoms. Every corner of Qin answered to the throne. This was the birth of centralized bureaucracy in China, the same system that would be used by every dynasty after Qin. He also standardized weights and measures, creating uniform tools for trade and tax collection. The Shenyang measuring vessel, excavated by modern archaeologists, proves this reform was real, systematic, and enforced across the entire state. But every revolution has a price. Shenyang's laws were so ruthless, so complete, that they made him countless enemies. Most dangerous of all, the crown prince, Yingxi, broke the new laws. Shenyang faced a choice: spare the prince and destroy the law, authority, or punish the prince and seal his own fate. He chose the law, since the prince was too young to be punished. Shenyang punished his two tutors. One was branded, the other, Gongzi Qian, had his nose cut off. Gongzi Qian hated Shenyang with every bone in his body. He retreated into seclusion for years, waiting for his revenge. For decades, Shenyang ruled Qin as its most powerful man, his laws enforced without mercy. The state was transformed. Records from the time say no one picked up lost items on the roads, mountains, held no bandits, families were prosperous and sufficient. Qin went from a weak outcast to the most feared state in China. Then, in 338 BCE, everything collapsed. Duke Xiao Xiangyang's only protector died. The crown prince became King Huiwen of Qin. Gongzi Qian and the old aristocracy immediately accused Shenyang of treason. Shenyang tried to flee, but his own laws trapped him. The strict household registration system meant no inn would dare hide a man without official papers. He was captured, brought back to Xianyang, and executed by being torn apart by chariots, the cruelest punishment under Qin law. The king declared his entire family exterminated. But here is the greatest irony in Chinese history. King Huiwen killed Shenyang, but he did not repeal a single one of his laws. Why? Because the king and the aristocracy knew the truth. Shenyang's system worked. It made Qin rich, strong, and unbeatable. To abandon the reforms would mean destroying the power they had just gained. So Shenyang, the man, was erased, but Shenyang's laws lived on. For the next 150 years, every ruler of Qin used this system to keep expanding, conquering, and absorbing other states. The machine Shenyang built did not stop until 221 BCE, when Qin Shi Huang, using the exact legal, military, and economic foundation laid by Shenyang, unified all of China into the first true empire. When we study Shenyang today, we see a man of terrifying contradictions. He was cruel, uncompromising, and utterly without mercy. His laws created a society of fear and control. But he was also a genius of statecraft, a man who saw the future of governance before anyone else. He destroyed feudalism, built meritocracy, standardized systems, and created a model of centralized power that shaped China for 2 millennia. He was not a hero, he was an architect of power. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient China, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic history. See you next time.